Hey,
Hey,
what's up?
we're live.
We are live. All
Here,
right.
here to talk about homeschooling and stuff.
Thanks for joining us. If you're there, if you're rewatching, thanks for joining us and checking us out. We are trying to, hold a conversation around education, sharing our experience. I'm Roy Robles. This is my
I'm
partner,
Darrow Sandberg.
and
Welcome. Thanks for coming.
we've been homeschooling for about 11 years, and we want to share our experiences. And now that homeschool is a hot topic, we want to share that and help anyone out there. We've been getting a lot of comments and people reaching out to us about some guidance, and so we said, like, let's do this bigger and badder and see what happens.
Yes. So,
You'll hear some cars in the background.
real life. So,
Feel free to leave comments and we can answer any questions you have as we go. We're just going to keep this casual and like talk and share and talk and share and talk. And what we're really doing too is we're launching a community hub, a space mainly for parents, and then hopefully for educators more, so that they can work together and figure out, get resources and work as a community to figure out options for their family.
it exists for people who have been homeschooling and unschooling already to connect around, now that everyone's sheltering in place. And it's for new families who are coming into homeschooling, new, fresh, to get ideas and resources and support and community around it. And also for people who are in school doing the distance learning, but really want some supplementation to bring some joy and excitement into the learning for their kids, so they can come and check out what we have and our ideas around fun, exciting, engaging learning as well.
So where should we start? Should we share the hub, or should we give our background?
Let's start with our story. You always want to start with a story.
All right. I guess we'll start with a story. What is our story?
I guess, do you want to start at the beginning?
Oh my God. In the beginning.
How did you find out about homeschooling? How did we start homeschooling?
Well, I can start sort of in the beginning. I think before we started homeschooling, like when I didn't have any kids, I heard about homeschooling once. There was a kid in high school who was in my high school who was homeschooled, and then they went to my high school. I forget his name, but I remember he had a lot of skills. Like, he played guitar and did this and that. I remember, and I kind of hanged with him. He was part of a band that we built together. Shout out to Khalif Miller and Ira Clark. Don't remember his name though. But then the second time was, we were having kids. We moved to Alameda already, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I was teaching woodworking at Laney College to adults in the morning. Or it's a morning weekly every 5 days a week in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
At Laney College, and then I would teach kids carpentry after school. So this was like an after school enrichment program to kids in the school system. And I substituted for one of the directors who was teaching a homeschool class.
Yeah, it was through Hickman, right?
Through Hickman Charter School.
Yeah.
He couldn't make it that day, so he asked if someone can help him take over the class. And so I was in this class, been doing it for a while, had all my tricks and things, and like, all right, that, can really like do magic and get the kids engaged, right? But these kids were really different, and they were asking me questions. They were really engaged, like way more engaged than the adults that I was working with. And they were asking me questions, and I was like, whoa, like, how does wood move? Because I would just say things where usually people just let it pass. Like, wood moves, and during the wet, because of the weather or whatever, and they would ask more in-depth questions. Yeah. And they had me like sweating against the wall, like not believing, like, do I know what I'm talking about? And I was really impressed by them. And it wasn't like oh my God, they're amazing kids. It was weird. It was actually a really weird thing. It was like these kids were looking me in the eyes. They were asking questions. It was like little adults and they were like adults in little bodies. So it was definitely strange.
Nothing you had experienced before with kids.
Right. But I was impressed, and I came home. I think we were was Rozzy already in kindergarten? I don't remember, but
Oh, she was about to start kindergarten. It was like the end of the year before she started kindergarten.
was it okay? Because I feel like that kind of there was a stress with her in kindergarten, and
Right. But we didn't decide to do it. That's when you first came. I remember that day. I remember I was in the kitchen. I remember you walking in and saying, "Darrow, you're not going to believe what I just experienced." Like, and you started explaining, and you're like, "I want to do this," and I was like, "Wait a minute, but you're working, so that means I'm doing this." And I was really nervous, and I didn't know. I had never heard of it really. I don't think I had knew anything about homeschooling. I was pretty ignorant about it, and so we had decided to send her to kindergarten that year because it was like 2 blocks away. We had just moved to that place. We'd wanted to get to know the neighbors. We were going to give it a shot. It was half day. We're like, let's try it and see how it goes. And then throughout that year, I researched homeschooling and unschooling, and I ended up befriending somebody who was homeschooling and followed her around with her kids most of the year to see what she did, to try to understand how does this work? What does it look like? And then you can take it back, Roy, at the end of the year, and what we started seeing with Razia.
oh right, okay. So, but yeah, did we go to we went to the homeschool conference as well,
Not yet.
which
Not
started
yet.
today, by the way, peoples. I don't know if you can still
Yeah.
go there, but the homeschool conference, which is
The HSC Homeschool Conference.
it started today and it goes till Sunday. We went there and we kind of
No, before that though, it was the end of kindergarten, and we went around looking at the first grade classrooms, and we saw that she had already developed a fear of math.
right.
And she had a lot of drama with other kids that year, just in kindergarten, and we really couldn't believe there was already social drama at that young of an age. And then we decided to go to the homeschool conference. Someone mentioned it to us, I can't remember who, and we went, and that was like the big aha moment for us.
Right.
To kind of seal the deal, because there was all sorts of families, all different types of styles of homeschooling and different types of families, and it was this bigger community, and you really felt like there was a scene, like there was a community around this. It wasn't just you by yourself in a silo with your kids at home. There was a whole community around it, and the kids were amazing, like what Roy had experienced in the kids carpentry class and more.
Right. So we were doing this crazy work with Rozzy before kindergarten, like doing a lot of math stuff. She was really enjoying it. So what's interesting, you'll hear me say this, I guess, as to like almost what you do when they're kind of born before you send them off to a school or something is basically what you want to do for your kids and basically for yourself as well, for the rest of your life. And so that's kind of a pattern that we later on noticed. But we did all this work. We had really fun engagement around math, and then she went to kindergarten. And at the end of kindergarten, she came out with some, what I consider education trauma around math.
Already after kindergarten.
Yeah, when we did a tour of the first grade, and she saw numbers on the wall, she was like freaking out, like, "What is happening?" Mm-hmm. And I was, and I just got super anxious, and was like, "We got to just get out of this, and let's do that homeschooling thing." And then we went to the homeschool conference. Right. Or you stalk people around like you admitted to, yeah. And then we went to the homeschool conference, and we saw the same thing. Kids were like, again, those little adults walking around, right? It was weird.
Yeah. So much self-agency, confidence, it was definitely eye-opening. Nothing I had ever seen. And again, like that bigger community really made me feel secure in it, that it wouldn't just be me hanging out by myself or with one or two other families, but there was a bigger, larger community around it that to kind of be a part of. So
yeah, if you just joined, we're sharing our experiences with homeschooling. We've been doing it for 11 years. We have 3 kids, 12, 14, 16. It changes every year. So
their ages change every year? Yep.
Yeah, their ages change every year. So, and we're kind of sharing those experiences. We're also launching a community hub for parents to find resources. It's more about parent empowerment. We think that's a critical point. And we're just going to talk about our experiences, answer any questions you might have. Give us a like so I can know you're in here, or leave a comment or question.
Yeah.
So then our kid went to kindergarten and she dropped out. She's a kindergarten dropout. And
she rose up out of kindergarten.
She's a drop in. They changed the language. I like that term. But it's a funny joke, kindergarten dropout. I think.
That's a very funny joke. Hilarious joke.
Okay, so then when we first started, right, we started doing school at home, right? Like we wanted to replicate what they were doing in the schools, or a bit better. We were going to do it better. We were going to kill it, right? And then what did we learn?
Well, we learned that as we started getting resistance on different things, and it started becoming arguments and tension, and we were like, why is this happening? This isn't what we wanted. We wanted this to be, fun, enjoyable, and like beautiful experience with the kids. And, the other two kids were a lot younger, so it was mostly Rozzy in the beginning, but I don't remember all the details, to be honest, but I do remember we started getting more and more relaxed and focusing more and more on games and art and activities, gardening and nature hikes and things like that. And I started realizing that she and the rest of the kids would ask me questions, and then I would answer, or I would ask them questions back, and it would spark these like curiosity, like journeys where they were learning through living, like learning through doing activities and playing games. And it was all happening kind of without having to force it and without having to create a lot of structure around it. So little by little, that's what we discovered.
I do remember waking up in sweats, not sweatpants, but sweats. And saying, are we crazy? Are we nuts? Like,
there was a lot of worry along the way.
We lived in Alameda, California, which just has some whatever good schools they say, or pretty decent schools, and we still decided that this wasn't working either.
So one of the reasons was our oldest daughter was a late reader, and since she was the first one and kind of the guinea pig of the whole homeschooling thing, we started to get really worried. Are we doing the right thing? Should we be giving her more help with certain things? Like, is something wrong? And then lo and behold, one year I was reading we started the Harry Potter series, and she just adored the book, adored the story, and would end up, after I would read a chapter or two and go to sleep, she would pick up the book, she told me later, and start reading it. And that's how she learned to read, just from the pure joy of the story and like desire to see what happened next. So ultimately she learned when she was ready to learn and when she was excited about reading because of the story. So
and
that worked out.
Yeah, we started learning, especially with our oldest, that people have to go on their own pace, and that if you force it, actually can cause issues. There's forced mastery, that happens. And we found later on, after 11 years, that when you let it go, they actually get to mastery on their own, and it's contextualized, or it's with passion or interest. And so we can maybe just skip forward to today and then talk about, now we're having this COVID and everyone's talking about homeschooling, but what is it? It's not what we're doing, and by any means we're not religious of any type of style of homeschooling. It's really homeschooling or self-directed education, or this family-based education, whatever you want to call it, interest-led, is really a customized education pathway that you create, and there's as many pathways as there's families or kids.
Right.
And so now there's a big confusion. There's like, what is homeschooling, what is unschooling, what is now you have distance learning, which is kind of trying to do school at home with technology, which I feel a lot of families are frustrated with. And then there's, what are your options out there? What's going on? And really realizing what are the options for parents in terms of their kids, right?
Yeah.
And what was the micro schools, the pods are popular now.
Homeschooling pods, yeah. People are creating.
Pods. Yeah. And everyone has different challenges, right? So a lot of the work I'm doing in the community colleges is around, has an equity lens. So it's trying to figure out how do we, fix things and do things. So there's a lot of challenges, and we don't have, we have our experiences and some answers, but we don't have the answers. So we're hoping that the community together can come together and you can find your answer for your kids.
Right. Yeah, the community hub is really set up so that the more people join, the bigger the community is, the more perspectives we have, the more stories we have to share and experiences, and that really is the power in it. It's going to be who joins and who creates it and makes it together. We make it together.
Should we share the
yeah.
Okay. So this is the landing page. We're still not finished with the site, but once we're almost done, we'll launch it. And it's called Our Parade.
Mm-hmm.
And we're trying to just create a space with resources and technology. We're going to also, you want to share some of the things we're planning?
Yeah, we're going to have like light programming each week. So around a theme, we'll have weekly Zoom discussions around the theme. We'll have workshops for people who are getting started, and lots of resources for people who are getting started. And then and just creating a community to kind of galvanize all of the smaller communities of homeschoolers and unschoolers and all the different kind of little smaller groups to all come together in one place and connect to just kind of make it more powerful, to really push the home learning and the alternative learning movement forward in a virtual way, so we can all stay connected and informed.
And big shout outs to 100 Roads and Cat Phrase.
Yes.
Who I don't know if you don't know, she's an amazing woman who started a physical space hub in Connecticut, and we kind of followed her, and she started a beta group and was showing people how to create a virtual, or was talking about this virtual space, and she started to create a virtual space.
Yeah, she had to pivot from a physical space. Her place is called Workspace Education in Bethel, Connecticut. And when she started to have to pivot, she teamed up with some people, and she thought, let's try to help other people in other cities try to create an online, a virtual space as well for co-learning and home learning families. And so we serendipitously got invited to do that, the beta group, and they really helped us figure out how to design a space. So that was big thanks to them for sure.
I got my cousins from Puerto Rico. They said,
hey.
What's up? Hi.
Hello.
Ellie and Beside, I guess, or is that okay? It's the one there. Besetti's. I don't know. I gotta check it out. But yeah. So it's it's interesting. Now we have this COVID situation. Parents are kind of forced to either choose to send their kid back to school and do this weird kind of exercise around don't touch, don't smell, whatever. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on with that, but wear masks and stay away from each other.
Yeah.
Some people are kind of figuring it out. Or they have to choose distance learning, right? Where they have to put their kid in front of a machine and the teachers have to kind of, they have all these kids online. They have to do something to engage them. I'm sure they're frustrated as well.
Yes.
And so, to me, I think, if I'm just going to speak frankly, I think the school system should be teaching parents how to facilitate their kids' education. So empowering parents, which is what we want to do, on knowing what are their options rather than, just sit your kid in front of the machine and we got them. Like, have some type of resources for parents to be engaged and to learn what their options are.
Right.
And then our other agenda is just to let people know what exactly is homeschooling, what's our style, and what are those options. I guess that's kind of our perspective, but we'll share that, in terms of what we do. And so how would you categorize or explain or describe what we do with our kids?
I mean, for the most part, we self-define as eclectic homeschoolers. So that means we kind of do a mix of things. And I mean, ultimately, I think it's the best way because you're able to really customize it for each kid. And we do different things for each of our kids who have different interests and are different kinds of learners. So, we pull together. Sometimes we do more structured things, and sometimes we pull from a curriculum of this or curriculum of that. Sometimes we do much more unstructured, very free-flowing things, and it'll change throughout the year and from year to year and really depend on where their interests are and where they're engaged. So we lay things out for them, from when they were little. We put things in their path, whether it's physical things or trips to places and visiting people and learning about different things like that. And then when you see their eyes light up, then this is something worth pursuing, and you try to kind of teach the basics through that excitement and that interest.
We really want to do, aloha, Edward. We really kind of try to do a post-secondary style education, college level, where the student is actually choosing what they want to learn from who, what subjects, I guess where, and to some degree what time. And that if you get to college, that's the first time you're asked those questions, like what do you want to learn,
Right.
from who, which I think you can do earlier, right? And you have cases or examples like Finland. Actually, they homeschool to their 8 and end at 16, and they're doing pretty well. They're they're recognized as one of the top schools in the world, and so they're kind of efficient with that, giving the kids the power again. And I know that's scary to some families, like, oh my God, if I give my kid all the power, they'll just play video games all day, right. Which we're not completely against. So, but I get it. There's concerns about that, and so some of the concepts we have to talk about is like deschooling and deschooling ourselves. So a lot of the work I found was working on myself.
Yes.
That going through the system and kind of having expectations of what a school experience, what an education should be like, working those ideas out and not kind of imposing those on my kid was actually the work I had to do. And yes. I feel bad for our oldest because she's kind of the first one.
Yeah.
And so she kind of got the brunt of it. And what does that mean, right? So, for example, some things I can say now is that when you do an interest-led experience, this is some of the benefits that you can kind of relate to if you have a kid in school. Is we have looping, for example. So almost similar to a coach. Once you find a mentor or a class you like, you can keep that mentor for multiple years. You can have that engagement for multiple years, and so you have, instead of changing your teacher in multiple years, not only that you choose them, right? So our kids have been interested in something, and then we kind of found the class, but they're not interested in the teacher, or it right. wasn't the right fit.
Yes.
And we could talk about that. Like, what does that mean, the right fit? When your kid is ready, if they're play-based, for example, if they're just learning something, if you give them a master, it's not going to be a right fit. So it doesn't mean that the teacher is bad necessarily. It just means that it's not the right time, right? But if they're getting into something and they've already passed the play-based stage and they're ready for more, then they can find a mentor that can give them that little bit of more. With that said, I do think that our system sometimes considers content experts as teachers, and that could be that's bad thinking, because a lot of times content experts are the worst teachers because they can't even imagine how someone can understand the subject that they know so well. And so knowing something and teaching is two different things, right? So, but I myself, later in life, have discovered interest-based for my own self, right? Like self-directed interest-based learning. And I look for mentors now. This is a thing I do. I get mentors, and I'm able to find someone who's a content expert, and as a learner, able to change it, where I'm able to not control the space, but like ask questions or kind of help facilitate the energy so that I'm learning.
To get what you need out of it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's something we tell our kids about. What's up, Jose?
Yeah. So it's a lot about, so a big plus for this kind of learning is that the kids from a pretty young age learn to identify how they best learn. And because we talk about it and kind of get them conscious of it. And then also, who are the mentors that work for them? Like, who are the teachers and educators and mentors that work for them? And sometimes it's YouTube videos, as our middle daughter found when she taught herself to play guitar from YouTube videos. So sometimes, a kid really needs an in-person situation with another adult. Sometimes they learn a lot from peers, and sometimes all of those things. Most of the time, all of those things. But it's identifying it, becoming conscientious of it for them, and then they can self-assess what's happening with them too. They're becoming aware of when they're doing, looking at themselves, reflecting, am I learning? Am I growing? Is this helping? Is that helping? That's from a young age, they're discovering that, which is really powerful.
And I just want to say something else too. Like, as a parent, the other thing is it's almost a natural phenomenon that you can't teach your kid. Your kid is going to be, when they're younger, they're kind of cooler. And as they get older, they don't want to hear from you. And that happens to us as well. We also deal with we're still parents. We're still dealing with people with hormones and issues, and who don't want to throw the garbage out and do their chores. Um, and so that stuff is there. I think not as harsh because I don't know. There might be something to talk about there. I don't know exactly, but you're still parenting, and so what we found is that we're just facilitating that experience. We're supporting their journey, and part of that is like finding opportunities for them, right. And like kind of just um, in partnership with them, helping them discover new things, opportunities, and getting it's almost like all the after school stuff, all the alternative ed stuff should be centered. And the work I did in community colleges, and I know my reformer friends out there would hopefully nod their head a little bit to me on this, but a lot of this alternative styles and alternative practices, I look at them like they should be mainstream. These are the good things, right? Contextualized teaching and learning, and like project based, all this stuff that's all on the margins, is so super powerful. I mean, this idea that you have to hate your education and it's competitive, like going for the A's, is just kind of causes a lot of education trauma. And not many people get through that, And
the ones who do don't retain a lot of it, because it's not like a joyous learning, and they just memorize it and then get the good grade, and then they forget. How many of us can say that we remember everything that we learned in school? I mean, I know I don't, most of it. So it really is a testament to the fact that that's not how humans really best learn information. And also, let's be real about the present day and what's going on. I mean, you can get information and learn things online for mostly for free. Like, content is everywhere. You don't need to sit in a classroom to learn content. So you may want to be in a classroom for other things, but content is definitely not the one anymore. So the times are changing even before COVID, and things are shifting, and we don't really know what our kids' future is going to look like in terms of employment and careers and economies. So we really need to make sure that they understand how to best learn what they need to learn, whatever that is going to be for them.
If you just joined us, give us a like so we can know you're here. Leave a comment, ask a question. We're kind of sharing our experiences with homeschooling or family-based education, interest-led education, self-directed education. There's so many ways to describe it. And we kind of shared, we've been doing it for 11 years, and we've been working with different people in the community. I see Alania's here.
Yay.
And she's part of the Callow crew, Micheline.
Callow Academy.
Doing
awesome great work.
Folks. They help, especially older learners, like develop an education path, and they're on our site too. We have them as a resource. Like, yes. we wanted this out to be a link to existing veterans who have been doing this and have practiced. So Cal is a great example of, I always say that wrong. Michelle's probably like,
no, Cal is right.
Banging the computer right now. But they help, especially older kids kind of develop an education map or something for themselves, a pathway,
and to graduation,
graduation degrees
in their own path that works for them, customized for them. Mostly, I think mostly teenagers, and a lot of them are coming out of school, so they're transitioning out, and they're helping them figure out their path. So yeah, amazing organization. Highly recommend.
So part of it is connecting to resources like that. I mean, I know when I joined, it was like a secret world, like a secret garden. Mm. And I was like, and then you find out that this stuff has been going on for a while, and it's amazing. Then you read about like the freedom schools of Mississippi, or like I think it's powerful, and it's going to address a lot of issues we have with education.
Yes. There's so much to learn. If you're just getting started and you're just curious and dipping a toe in it, there's a lot to learn. And we're hoping this hub will help people not be confused and overwhelmed, but kind of see it more clearly and have a community, a built-in community right away to help kind of get you through and get you started.
Yep. And so we said we're eclectic. And so what does that mean? Okay, so we talked about like looping and finding mentors is a big deal. Leaving your kid have that, letting your kids have a space for themselves to have a cognitive space. Don't interrupt their cognitive like momentum. I call it. I just heard a new term today. What was it? Hot cognition. This idea of when you're learning and you're fully engaged, to maintain that. I know the work I've done with adult learners, is they're dealing with education trauma. Either somewhere in their past, someone told them they didn't know something, or math is a big topic around education trauma. Everyone thinks I'm not good at math. I'm not good at math. Um, and so to heal that cognitive closure or whatever for adult learners, I found, so I work like around, I like the vocational space, the hands-on space, because a lot of the assessments in that space is self-assessment and objective assessment. So either the light turns on or it doesn't. And so there's a learner gets to heal in that space. They're able to become a learner again and create, a cognitive momentum, open up their cognition, and get to that space where you're just you're having, everything's contextualized. It makes sense. You're just enjoying time. And I hope most of you have experienced that, where you're into a subject, an interest that time just stands still, and it's a lot of work, but you don't even notice it. Like nothing bothers you. You just want to get it done. And that's the aim, folks, is trying to keep that space for your kids to do that, and for yourself too.
Yes.
And so we learned a lot about. I know I learned a lot about myself learning from my kids, which is kind of a cool thing.
Yes, and we learn from the kids all the time. All the time. They've passed us in many things, in many topics, and they teach us. So that's awesome too.
What are people doing out there? Is there anyone with any questions? I'm interested in hearing. What do you think about our conversation? You can help us guide this conversation.
Do you guys want to hear anything in particular about the site, about us, about education stuff?
So one of the things I want to share is what I do with my kids is I go get lunch at the local community colleges. We're really here in California, but community college is an American institution. I've done work in Chile and Nairobi, and they don't know. People didn't know. People outside the United States don't really know what a community college is, and so we really it's an American institution in a sense, and it's beautiful. And so in California, we have we're spoiled with some great community colleges. 112 of them, I think 113 now.
We have the most. We have the most of any state, right?
The most of any state, because of the size of California. It serves 3 million students. It's the largest college institution in the world. But because of that, there's community colleges all over. You can throw a stone and hit a community college. We have some questions here. But I want to say, so this is good. This is we're going. Yeah. So
Karina.
this is a good. You kind of we're syncing up, Karina. So what we've been doing is I go take I started very young, going to open houses with my kids to the community colleges. It's a scary space because it's academic. Like if you walk onto a college, you can sense the seriousness, the academic space, and it's very scary for people, right?
Intimidating. Yeah.
It's intimidating. And so if you're a first generation or you're maybe your family's not used to that, it could be even more intimidating, right? If you're a first gen student. And so getting them comfortable is in that space. So I'll buy lunch for them, which food helps with nerves. And then we go check out the different departments, talk to people. And it's crazy because it's the departments are set up so they have kind of props, right? So that if you go to a woodworking shop, there's machines. If you go into, the culinary department, there's like food, stuff going on. And then they start telling you like what they think, and they're there, and you do that. I do that over and over. And now my son is 12, but our daughters are 14 and 15, and they both attend community colleges. 16. Changes every year. Whoa, we're getting back questions. We got some.
All right.
They got a watch party going over there on Facebook.
Yeah. Thanks for coming, you guys.
They got a watch party going.
Yay!
Alanya resonating with everything. We have a question from Ali in Puerto Rico.
Do you create the curriculum for homeschooling or you buy it?
Do you create curriculum for homeschooling or do you buy it? So at first, we're eclectic. So we will buy something, and at first we bought a lot of it. And then later we find out that there's just a lot of it that, oh yeah, Dara, you should answer that question.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. It depends, and we can only speak to our experience. Although I do have a lot of anecdotal stories of other families at homeschool who say similar things. So I know it's at least somewhat common that this happens, where you start off trying to recreate what school is at home for the most part, with more structure and sometimes curriculum, and then quickly realize that the kids are resisting and or zoning out, and it's not clicking, they're not engaging, it's not working. And so you really want to, as a parent, you really want it to be successful, and that you have more options, so you can go for that. And we ended up kind of mixing it up. So some things, if it works, like for a period of time, our middle daughter was doing Khan Academy for math, and that was working for her. And then she got to a point where she was kind of over it and she stopped doing it. And so we did other things. We played math games and we did, other stuff. So, we kind of go with the flow depending on what engages them and where their interests are. And then there's a lot of teaching basic skills through their interests. So like, this is kind of cliche, but, learning math through cooking, measuring and baking and that kind of stuff, and science through being outdoors and gardening and, being around, going to farms and visiting animals and that kind of stuff. So that's where we ended up doing more of it, less curriculum based and a little bit more life learning. But then, we did have to come back, like we circled back and started a couple of the kids in this math program called Mathnasium, which is like a pretty common one that you'll see. And it's kind of like a math tutoring center, but they do it a different way and different style of learning. And that worked for our kids. So we do that sometimes, we do a mix of things. So like what works, and you just have to keep staying open-minded and being able to be flexible with it and keep researching and finding things, and learning about other things. And there's always new things coming on the market, new programs now more than ever. There's free things online, from YouTube videos to, master classes and all sorts of things, tutorials. So yeah, there's an endless amount. And that's one of the reasons why we're creating this hub, because we want to make it less hard. I mean, when I was designing it, I was like thinking to myself, what I wouldn't have given to have this when we were starting out, like a place, a community with all these resources, preset, curated, pre-screened. You know what I mean? We went through so many things where it was like, oh, this looks interesting. And then we brought it into the house, and the kids were like, meh, this is boring. So we're hoping that, people will save people time and energy and having to search through everything and reinvent the wheel. And by having, pre-curated things, pre-tested screen things, in terms of resources and then the community to share their experiences and really support each other and inspire each other and learn from each other. So.
Yeah. The thing is, one size doesn't fit all, right? So like this idea, which we kind of push back against, is this, like, the curriculum or these ideas that come from the feds, Common Core now, it's just federally mandated, testing, for example, as well as, like, everyone has their own shoe that fits differently. And so one kid might love curriculums and you want to buy curriculums all day and they can't get enough. Another kid would hate it. And so the main point is to find out how your kid learns and what really interests them, what sparks their interest. And Daryl quickly mentioned strewing, but when they're younger, we did strewing, where you leave things out, you put things in front of them, and they kind of just start playing with things. We have instruments and science kits or whatever, different things. And so you try to remember that you can get a curriculum, but the main idea here is to find you have a opportunity to customize your kids' education to fit them, right? And we were doing this before COVID, and with COVID, everyone's was forced into this thing, and it's like almost a shock, right? But it's almost a good opportunity to try some of these things out. Try to listen as a parent. Try to listen and try to pay attention and try to find things that really resonate with them. Like, look at the things.
When you see their eyes light up, that's when you know you've got something. You're onto something.
And it could be Khan Academy. It could be YouTube. It might be like, it might be a kit or something. It might be that they just kind of do something else.
Mhm.
It might be gardening or whatever. It might be like a person that they connect with, like a mentor.
Yeah. Also, like with our 14-year-old. Oh, real quick, when our 14-year-old just started a business. She loves to crochet and she is making clothes and she wanted to sell them. So she has figured it all out on her own. And this is a way that, kids, when they're self-directed, when they're excited about something and passionate about something, that will lead them to learning about it. So, if I had sat down and said, okay, this is how you start a business and run some business curriculum, it may have gone in one ear and out the other. And in fact, I think I have done that in the past, and it did go in kind of one ear and out the other. But when now she's excited about it and she wants to make it work, so she's actually doing it. It's contextualized to a real life situation that she cares about, and then she's learning how to run a business. So that's one example of how this can work.
Mm-hmm. And then hopefully in another live or something, we can bring our kids on. You can meet them to some degree. Margie has a question here. How do you find a mentor?
Good question.
It's interesting because Margie is part of our family, so she is a mentor herself. So
she certainly is a mentor.
She's a big mentor. She's a teacher, and she has been vital in our kids' life. And
yes.
So where do you find your mentors? You can start right within your family networks.
Grandparents can be great mentors.
Yeah.
My mom knows ASL, American Sign Language, and sparked it with our kids, and Lyris ended up taking it at Berkeley City College because she loved it so much.
Yeah, multiple levels, multiple times, and takes it really serious.
Yes.
She was 13 when she was taking the class.
She was the youngest in her class.
Yeah, I don't want to brag, but she was outperforming everybody, and so
we can brag on that one. That one's we got bragging rights there.
So yeah, mentors. But then besides that, right? So and I don't want to lose the point that I have degrees, Darryl has degrees, so and I don't have the answer to this, but I just want to put it out there. Not every family has that option. Or they might have to work, two people working. So this stuff it was a lifestyle change for us. Like Darryl could totally have went to work and did all this stuff, and we could have done the whole thing of going to work and sending our kids to school, which I'm not knocking down because people have to do that. But we made lifestyle choices to buying clothes at the thrift store and smaller home, and kind of really counting your pennies to make sure that we found that to be important enough to
prioritized it. Yes.
Yeah, we prioritized this stuff and,
to make it work. But I know plenty of parents moms who work from home, work part-time, and make it work. Yep. You really have to create a community to help if you have family, an extended family. That's great. If you don't, you have friends, other people, other families who are doing it, and people make it work with each other. They work hard to manifest it. So it's possible.
There's so many great questions. I want to get to them all. And I just want to say to that point, and then we're going to answer another question. This opportunity with micro schooling, what do you call it? Pods or what? Micropods. That's a good opportunity or a good segue into, really innovating your kids' experience, right? So now what I'm hearing is that people are getting together, hiring, collectively, hiring, a mentor or tutor or whatever, someone to facilitate a group's experience. And, maybe you're going to try to replicate what's in the school system or what they're experiencing, and that's fine. But maybe you want to change it up a little bit, right? Maybe you want to add something new. Maybe work with someone, go to our hub and figure out to add something different to that pod, so it could have a different slant to it. And so this is
more dynamic, yeah.
What I love about it is that we were what's scary and what I love about it is that we were in total control of what's going on. And so we're able to really drive their experience a little bit. And instead of selling cookies to get the best teacher, right? Or all these
politicking in the school system,
politicking it to get the teacher everybody wants. And if you're working 3 jobs and you don't have you know how to make the right cookies, and you're gonna get another teacher, right? So let's get one of these other questions. Well, I just want in Puerto Rico, they're dealing with virtual schooling. Let's see how it goes. Puerto Rico is so me and Darryl talk about moving to Puerto Rico. because there's so many, I think, opportunities, like so much going on there to that it's just so full of life, like, starting a farm or raising some animals or whatever, and just really contextualizing the experience, teaching our kids where about Puerto Rico and the history of Puerto Rico. I'm Puerto Rican, my parents are Puerto Rican. So,
FYI.
FYI. uh
Any other questions?
yes, can you see the questions?
No.
You can't on the right side. If you go to comments, click on
Oh,
comments.
okay. Sorry. There they are.
Let's see. Okay, can we talk more about our plans for the hub?
Sure.
Turk Jones.
That's Alanya, I think.
Oh, you're not supposed to tell people's
Oh,
aliases.
sorry. Yes, the hub is we have it set up so we're going to do weekly programming. So people will have we'll be working on themes that that everyone can relate to, things that we deal with as home learning families and as people who care about interest-led learning for their kids. And so each week we'll have a theme. Each month we'll have a theme. Each week we'll have a sub-theme, and we'll have a Zoom discussion based on the theme. We'll have a question of the week, and we'll be posting. You can post and share resources. There'll be a section for finding educators where we'll have educators that we all can add to the list. One, not just random educators, but ones that we love and that our kids have thrived with. We have lots and lots of goodies, lots of cool things. I can't even remember all of the things right now, actually. So yes, and we're going to keep doing lives. We're going to try to get speakers, leaders in education and community leaders, and we'll try to do panels of unschooled teens, or panels, talks with, school parents and homeschool parents, discussions, and we'll go live with that so people can participate.
Sorry to interrupt.
Sure.
We also want to listen to the community and see what they're asking for and let them drive it too. So it's very similar to what we're talking about. We want to do with the community and be, what was that? Right. There's like a eagle flying over you or something. The sound.
Me?
Yeah. No?
It's probably a crow.
Okay. Yeah, we want to listen to the community, see what they're asking for, and kind of hopefully get people and let them drive it. We want to have funds so we can pay a curator to pay attention to the space, and then maybe use those funds to bring in people and resources, trying to grow it. We also, my dream is to have physical space. That's where it really started. And so hopefully the dream is that eventually we'll get a physical space. And that's the challenge we could talk about with this lifestyle, was we had to piecemeal our physical spaces, going to the library, going to someone's house, going to the park. And so one of the things I think that the conventional school has is a physical space, right? What you do with it is a different story, but like a physical space to convene, to have labs and resources. So if the public school or the public education system starts to look more like community colleges, or family-based and empowerment, then I think that's the future of schools. And I would love to be part of that and see that happen. We have Teresa asking a question.
Aida asked, can we share a little bit about the parent-run co-op that we had and the carpentry class that you ran?
Okay, so we'll get back to your question, Teresa. Which one's that one? Where do you see that? I'm looking at the Facebook, and there's questions that are not coming up.
Oh, really? Well, we ran a co-op with Aida Salazar, the Santos family, and a couple other families, and we would we'd share houses, so we would meet at different people's houses each time, and it was amazing. Small co-op, but it was great for the kids. It was a way for the kids to be social with each other and learn in a social environment with other kids, and we each shared kind of what we had to offer. Aida did writing. She's an amazing author. Roy did carpentry, and the kids did carpentry here in our backyard, and that was really great. And I can't remember all the other things. We did field trips, I think, as one of the rotations. We would go to museums and parks and things. And I think Micheline and I did cooking. We did cooking stuff. And,
what I think? I'm sorry. I think if your Facebook is set to private, then I can't get the feed here. But I'm looking at the Facebook, and so
Okay.
there's some great questions I'm missing here. Let's get the ones I have here, and then we can. Sorry, I interrupted you. Do you want to?
No, I think that was pretty much it.
Yeah,
I
we're
mean,
still we're still
co-op.
figuring out the technical part of this.
Sorry, guys. But co-ops are great. Co-ops are super, super helpful.
I see
And
it.
that's kind of like what the school families are trying to do. They're trying to create what they call homeschooling pods, which are basically small little co-ops. So less risk of spreading COVID because there's just a few small family, small group of families. And yeah, they could definitely benefit from coming to the site because there's got all these resources and experiences that they can learn, kind of dive in a little bit on, like Roy was saying, as opposed to just having whoever the mentor educator is leading it, just doing kind of school at home type activities.
Let's get back to research.
Okay. At what age were your kids when you started teaching them more formally? Okay, asking since I have a preschooler. It was kind of when they were ready. We kind of felt it out. I mean, with our oldest, we were kind of dove in with a kind of more of a school at home approach in the beginning. And then we realized that didn't really work for her. So we kind of backed up. But it's really, it's a lot of just trying things out, seeing what sticks, seeing what excites them and what engages them. Some kids learn things at different ages. Like our oldest was a late reader. She didn't really start fully reading until almost 9 years old. So that's pretty late. And we did worry and were concerned about it in the beginning. But when I'm sure people were not here in the beginning when I was talking about this, but she started picking up the Harry Potter book after I went to sleep after reading a couple chapters, and she taught herself that way. She was ready and she was excited about the story. So yeah, everyone learns at different times. So you may think, oh, well, they're in kindergarten now or first grade now, so they should be learning X, Y, Z. You can try it. And if they're not engaged in responding to it, then just back up and let them, have some space with it, or try it from a different angle. Like let's try learning numbers through cooking, or let's try, doing different things in different ways. So, yeah.
But Razia is like a crazy avid reader now.
Yes.
Like I mean, one of the stereotypes of homeschooling, which is real, is that all they do is read, and that's real.
It's kind of real.
It's kind of real. So I'm getting questions here and there, and so I'm looking for let's see. Okay, so Edward asked this question.
Is it a full-time job for you? Do you ever feel burnt out? Great question. Thanks. Yeah, for sure. Feel burnt out at times. I mean, it's important, like anything we do as parents, is we have to carve out space for ourselves, downtime, self-care, the whole nine. So yeah, I mean, Roy has been an amazing partner, and it was, honestly, it was his idea to start this. So he's been a real partner in it, and I haven't felt like it was totally on my burden, on my shoulders. And that's been great. But yeah, if you're one parent that's leading the whole charge, then you have to make sure that you have downtime, and your kids will see that you need downtime and appreciate that you're resting, and then come back refreshed, like anything with parenting. So
but I would say too, the hustle in the morning, right, to get them to school or whatever, yes, that's gone.
Right.
And
there's less pressure and stress around it because you really can create your own rhythm with it that works for your family.
The hustle to get them into like the right school, the right classroom. There's a lot of stuff that goes away. There's a lot of, yes, people always ask, what about socialization? What about socialization? Our kids socialize with all different. There's intergenerational. That's something I totally forgot. There's intergenerational classrooms. So like, you have, when you're interest led, it's not based on the age you were born. It's not age of manufacture, right? I mean, date of manufacture. It's like the classroom is filled with people with the same interest, and so you have different age learners. And I think that took me on a tangent. I forgot what I was going to say.
No, intergenerational learning and mixed age learning together. It's really important. I mean, we've seen so many precious, amazing moments where there's like, a 12-year-old teaching a 6-year-old or an 8-year-old something, and or younger kids teaching older kids something that they're super into and they know so much about. And that's really, that's awesome to me. That's one of the most awesome things.
Did you talk about the kids' carpentry class? I missed that. The one during our co-op, yeah.
Briefly, but you can tell more details if you want.
Okay. No, I mean, so we do it like a basic intro to geometry, and we had like, and interesting enough, my kids don't take my class anymore. It's other people's kids that take my class. So that's kind of gives you a glimpse of how things actually, that's a natural thing.
Yeah.
So I'm a mentor to other people's kids, basically, and I coach and do all these things, which I love. That's part of my role as a community member. So I'm about it, and so it's all good. Is there a launch date coming soon?
I mean, we're
We need
we're
to.
we're
We're. Go ahead.
um we're gonna soft launch, I think, Monday. I think we'll be ready Monday to soft launch. Yeah. So yeah,
Here, we'll
coming
show the
very
site one
soon.
more time.
Yeah, this is our
Parade.
landing page. You can come check out the landing page. It's up, ourparade.com. I think you have to do www.ourparade.com to find it.
Yeah, and we want to get into more lives and bring people in, like we were saying, that are
Yes.
thought leaders.
Will the community have ideas for parents who choose to keep their kid in a structured setting but want to incorporate other styles, or would that be confusing for the kid? Let's see. So yeah, I mean, the community absolutely has ideas for that. It's kind of supplementing, I guess is how you would call it, to bring in fun, exciting learning stuff for your kids, but they're also enrolled in full-time school. I don't think it would be confusing for the kid. I mean, it's almost like an extracurricular or an enrichment kind of a thing. And then for the parents, I think it will be really beneficial because you'll be able to see kind of let them follow their interests and kind of see how they interact with those things when they're really interested and engaged. And it can kind of inform how to help them navigate their school stuff as well.
Right. We just want to open up the options. Have you think, we're gonna have like an intro workshop where we kind of like map out education options. There's all types of stuff going on. The ones we know, like Montessori and Waldorf, but other things, critical pedagogy, and where you can use like social justice issues as context for classes. There's so many, and again, it's customized. It's the key here. It's like
Right.
there's not a silver bullet. The only silver there actually might be a silver bullet for each kid, but like that you have to think bigger. You have to think customized. Like this is an individual person with individual fingerprints.
Yes.
Kind of. I think we can get into the history of education and how it was underground for a while, and having this public system is something that is recent. Not everyone understood what the role of education, and it wasn't for everyone, or education was different. Like you had homesteaders who did this and that, and what's the role of this education system that we in modern times, which is only like 100 and something years old, and made mostly for the industrial age, right? With like Prussian history and also like Hindu caste system stuff in there. So one of the biggest questions we're going to talk about is the purpose of education. What is education? What's the difference between education and schooling, right? So as education is about this life journey almost, right? And how do you go on this quest? And then schooling could be just is a subcategory to that educational experience. And so seeing schooling as the whole thing of education, I think is a misstep. There is definitely room for training and schooling. So don't get me confused. We're just saying we have to step back a little bit and ask ourselves again, what's the purpose of education, especially in 21st century where all this stuff is becoming automated. So if you're talking about work and jobs, there's a lot of machines taking our jobs. We're going through that right now. It's the reason why a lot of things are happening. Lindsay has a good question.
How do you do something that requires some infrastructure equipment like frog dissection or Bunsen burners or wood shop? Great question. We are still figuring that out like everybody else, because we used to be able to take our kids to different places to do those things. But, we've over the years, we have Mel Science is a resource that we've used, which is a science kit that is shipped to your house. I think you get it once a month. And they set you up. They've got your little Bunsen burner. They've got all your equipment, and then they have different fun experiments to do, and they walk you through it. And the kids have really enjoyed it. So, and I'm sure that's not the only resource out there. So yeah, there's ways to do it. We also had a box for dissection, actually, with a bunch of different animals, small animals in there. And I haven't done it yet, and feeling pretty guilty about that. But I think I have my own issues with it, and I just have to try to move past that.
There's also, you can take classes. Like, so this is a good point. During COVID, everyone's like, oh, you've been doing this for a while. No, we haven't been doing this. This is COVID. This is like we send our kids to classes. They participate in sports. They hang out with their friends. They take
theater groups. They have lots of social.
So we're feeling the impact as well as a family. So this is not normal for us. So please don't confuse this, whatever they're calling homeschool, with what
shelter in place homeschool.
Right. It's a different thing. Yeah. And we're kind of feeling the impact.
For sure.
What we experienced, though, is interesting, because so when they were younger, it was really play-based, and they were kind of free and kind of doing things. And as they got interest, they start getting their classrooms, and we do an orientation at the beginning of the semester. And again, every family does different things, but we do an orientation where we kind of set goals for the end of the semester, and then at the end of the semester, we kind of talk about that. We talk about, well, how close did you get, and what happened there? What was positive? What was a challenge? And we kind of get some food. We take the whole day off, and we kind of just do an orientation, and then at the end of the semester, like, I don't know, and the semester party or whatever, where we kind of share, and we bring back those outlines or those goals. So so they take classrooms, and they get more scheduled later when they get older. So during COVID, those classes kind of went away, and
well, some of them went virtual.
They went virtual, but I know some of our kids don't like it. Demas actually still likes them, but our youngest likes the virtual stuff. But our two girls
are not so crazy about it.
They're not crazy about the virtual classrooms.
They really miss the hands-on being there.
So they went back to that younger age where they started playing with stuff, and me too, myself included. I started playing with like new technology, and just live streaming stuff came from that. And it was this decompression, and like our middle child started getting to like sewing again or whatever.
Yeah, we're doing a lot of cooking. Everybody's doing cooking. The girls, both teenage girls, are cooking a lot, which is awesome. So yeah, I mean, shelter in place has definitely shifted things. But there's still ways to find things. There's things online. You can order things to come to your house, kits and whatnot. So there's ways to make it work.
With that said, it's interesting because there's this concept called deschooling. And if you just joined us, we're sharing our experience of homeschooling for 11 years. We're launching a community hub called Our Parade, where we can kind of share resources and convene community around education, family-based education, interest-led education. And yeah, so let us know if you have any questions. I keep going off and I forget what I'm going to say.
Deschooling.
Oh, deschooling. So deschooling is this concept where if you take a kid out of school, so we get a lot of requests or people reaching out to us with kids in high school, and they're like, my kid is having a horrible time. I heard you doing this homeschooling thing. What's the silver bullet? And then we go down the line that we're going down here. Like, it's just like, what are they interested in? And they're like, what are you talking about? Like, just give me the silver bullet. And so we're like, it's not that easy. But one of the concepts that we suggest is called deschooling. So for every year that they're in school, you should give them a month to just kind of chill out. And decompress. And it might look like they're sleeping all day. It might look like they're just playing video games. It might be like they're not doing anything. It could be like they get into one thing immediately. But what happens at the end of that deschooling process is they start to kind of decompress, and they wake up and they're like, okay, what am I interested in? At that point, you want to start to, well, before that too, but you want to really capture them when they're kind of waking up from that, and start to invest time and resources into their interest. And I feel like with COVID, I had to talk with my godson, shout out to Diego. And it was kind of it wasn't planned, but like during this COVID, they almost had a forced deschooling process, which I found interesting. And so he had time to like kind of decompress. And so when I talked to him, I was playing Fortnite and with him, and he was just telling me about his experiences and how the school was giving him options to do this and that, and how he's going to take some classes at the local community college and all this stuff. And I was like, wow, that's like he just deschooled and now is finding his interest and figuring out that he has options. Yeah. And so this is a great opportunity as well to just kind of let, again, listen to your kids and find out what they're interested in. Yeah, there's so many good questions here, and I don't know which one to pick. Or even statements. I like, let me see, there was a statement here.
Margie had a question. Oh, I appreciate your individualized approach and discussion of education trauma. Thanks, Patrick.
Yeah, education trauma is real, especially when we work with parents. As parents, we have lots of education trauma.
Yeah.
I know I do. I still have them. And I'm like, I can't do this. I'm not qualified or whatever, let a professional handle this. And I used to wake up in sweat with sweats, in sweat. And what is it?
Cold sweat.
In cold sweat, not in sweatpants, right? And oh, you laughed that time with it joke. Okay. And then I started getting to like, wow, more families should be doing this. And then I got to a point, I was like, should we burn down the schools? Like I was become a big advocate for this lifestyle. And I feel like it's really a nice gift that we give our kids to allow them the space to know themselves and get that cognitive momentum and find and find space for them in terms of education.
Yes, but if you can't, and if you're staying in the system, you can absolutely supplement and piece together other things to support what they love and what they're interested in. Because there are people who have gone through school and managed to still find what they love and find their passions. And then when they're done with school, they take off and they soar. So that's definitely something you can do as well if that's your only option.
Turk Jones answers Karina's question, I think, about like a hybrid schooling model. It's Alon. She said yes. She is. It's Alanya. Everyone knows now. I like the alias Alanya. You should. Yeah, you can totally have a hybrid education. That's what it's about. So if your kid is in I went to a pretty decent high school in New Jersey, but St. Benedict's Prep. Shout out to St. Benedict's Prep. But it wasn't perfect. They didn't have vocational programming, and I'm a big hands-on guy. So if they had that, I would love to have participated. I found out later. They also, they had amazing things. Like I'm not knocking them, right? So it was a great school, but if I can have customized it, or and I don't know if my parents were in tune with me like that. I had to do it myself. I eventually, worked with my dad around the house and stuff, and got into tools and love tools and building things. But if they had it in school, I might have seen it differently. I could have been like, something, I started making furniture later on in life, and that's cool. But, I wish I had started earlier.
Right. You want to bring up Margie's question?
I just wanted to tell you that. It's okay.
Margie asked, will the hub have lists of professional educators who are looking to work with small groups? We have an educator section in the hub for sure, and we are pulling together people that we know already, and then it's going to be up to the community to bring in people they know. And we're going to try to market to educators who want to come join the site. And hopefully we'll be able to get educators who are independent and looking for work creating smaller groups. So yeah, absolutely open to that, and we'll try to get that happening.
We want to evolve to where we can have an educator portal. The other side of this is for education, educator liberation as well. We find that teachers are told to teach to the test, and they're not able to do their craft, especially good teachers, which is super sad. Shout out to Derek Smith out there if he's listening. I think he talks about the craft a lot, and being a master teacher and getting into the craft, can be hindered by, okay, now you got to teach the test, make sure they learn this stuff. So we found that like this space I went to visit in Portland, Oregon, called Village Home, which is a physical hub for homeschoolers, and teachers were coming from the Bay Area, from New York, to teach there because they were free to teach, and it was them who attracted the students. And as a teacher, that's an amazing feeling to be able to just like innovate and do your thing.
Yeah.
And those spaces are incredible when the teacher is allowed to do so. The other side of the story is this is a space for teachers and educators to liberate themselves from that and really have an impact on students and become. And I think you're going to see more and more of that, right? What is called the hustle economy now? That's like everyone's zooting now. They're like tutoring online and doing stuff. There's like questions from like Susie Taylor and La Rosa that are not showing up in the feed. I am seeing on Facebook, but I wish
I see a question from La Rosa.
You do?
Yeah. Due to COVID, are you recommending that each family pick one model, meaning co-op members not attend public at the same time to refrain from spreading the virus?
I don't see it.
I mean, we're not going to recommend. I mean, it's up to the parents and the families to decide what they feel comfortable with. If you're doing, I'm assuming, I don't know for sure, but I'm assuming that if people are doing homeschooling pods, that they're not doing they're not going to a physical school space if their schools are open. If their schools are virtual, if they're doing distance learning, then it's not an issue. But yeah, for sure, people have to be safe and careful and do what they feel. I mean, the homeschooling pods, what I'm hearing is families are making agreements that they are only going to see each other's families so that they're not exposing each other to other germs. That's what I've heard when I've read about it online and stuff. Are there any more questions? You said there was one that wasn't showing up on the feed.
Where are you seeing that? Are you seeing that in StreamYard?
Yeah.
I do not see it in StreamYard. It's amazing.
It's weird.
It's weird. StreamYard, work on that, please. Yeah, Susie Taylor, it's time to get away from the factory style of education. This is the perfect time to upend the whole thing and make it work for everyone. I agree.
Yes.
I wish I could post that one.
Here.
Because I really like that, Susie.
Yes, so true. So true. It's an opportunity, like Roy keeps saying, for parents and educators to try something new and expand what they think of as education, and more options, more choices. I mean, ultimately for our kids to be able to have joy in their learning and find their passions and really go deep into their passions, learn what they want, and then be excited about learning so that they can meet the future ready and prepared.
Do you have your Facebook open by any chance?
I don't.
Okay. Hey, people, we're still working on the technical issues here.
This is the first time.
Now it came up here. See, now I see it. See, it's just delayed.
Okay.
This is the one you answered already, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, it's delayed.
I'm trying to bring up my Facebook.
La Rosa says FaceTime and Zoom for foreign languages, like the kids did with Prima and PR. That's right. We did a little session with my cousin in Puerto Rico, and we had Besetti's out there. Shout out to Besetti's.
Yeah.
We did a little bit of that. That was super cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's the virtual thing is hard because there's a lot of time in front of a screen, but ultimately you do have access to so much more. I mean, really, we can connect with so many more people and find more mentors, and from all over the country and even the world. So there is a lot of opportunity here.
Mm-hmm. Karina says it's not here yet either. I don't know why, but she says I think as humans in general, authenticity shines. So when you say masters, I can definitely see how kids will be engaged when someone is able to teach from their heart and in their own terms versus a test or a standardized curriculum.
So true.
Yep, I wish I could post that one here too. And she says, "Okay, I'll stop commenting." No, keep commenting.
Love the comments.
Something's up with my system here, but I'm not seeing the comments. I think I switched over to the Ethernet, and I think it's doing a thing.
Okay.
And I'm hope that YouTube there's no comments we're not getting either. If there's comments that we're not addressing, apologies. We're trying to work on that.
Yeah. What else? Are you reading one, Roy?
Yeah.
Thanks everybody again for coming to this. This is really awesome.
Well, it's an hour and 15 minutes, and
oh, I see one from Aida.
You do?
Yes, I just read that Kenya suspended school for the whole year, and every student will have to repeat their grade. This seems like such a great opening for real life learning and play. What do you think about that? Wow. Absolutely. Yeah, they have the year to do whatever they want. That's amazing.
There's the Homeschool Conference is on now, and there's amazing stories of people world schooling and doing different things with education. Like they're really breaking out of the box. And
road schooling,
and
traveling around.
There's so many stories out there that's super exciting and inspiring.
Yeah. When you first hear some of these stories, you're like, what? That's crazy. Like we could never. And then you start to hear like they're just regular people that just were kind of brave and thought outside the box and went for something. And their kids and their families just have these amazing experiences. So very inspiring.
Turk Jones asks, are we planning to do an equity statement for the site and project? Good question. I think more than anyone, people who have suffered historical injustice and current injustice really need a super innovative education strategy and system. And I really think family-based, community-based is going to be super healing for that. I do some work. I did some work at Youth Uprising here and trying to figure out, how can we get this model into communities that don't have those resources. I also think the narrative of that's out there is that you can't do anything. But I think there's so many. I mean, growing up in Newark, New Jersey, there were so many heroes. I was sharing yesterday at our kind of pre-live thing how some of these mentors that I found early, I didn't have the words at that time. I just experienced them. But my cousin was a legendary graph writer, and there was DJs and all this culture and art and mentors that existed, right in front of my face. So kind of almost waking up and realizing what's right in front of you. How can your grandmother teach you about your culture, and how can you make that a credential? How can you make that part of education, see as education, and using cultural capital? And so how do you address this? I mean, I think this type of education is liberation I think everyone's suffering, but especially these communities could use, and I don't have the answers. I do work in the community colleges around older learners and did some work with younger learners, but it's definitely a space that I want to be involved in terms of how do you get this? We just had a email from someone who reached out like, hey, there's a whole community of people who don't, their English is their second language, and they don't, now they're hit with this just as hard. What do you do? Well, it's such a big question. It's really tough. And,
right.
and how can we, as a community, figure out some champions to get in there and help them, like understand these concepts, giving them same options.
Community organizing, coming together, pooling little funds they have to create. I mean, we at a certain point couldn't afford to get fancy laptops, and we got these laptops for $250 each. If families can pool together that much money and get a couple of laptops, and then all meet at one person's house with an older sibling or a young adult who has some free time, or that kind of thing, and help kids. I think the main thing is that people don't know what the options are. They don't know that it's legal to do this. They don't know, or they think they're scared and worried that if they're not doing school stuff, that they're gonna fall through the cracks somehow or not make it. So awareness, building awareness and education around that. So I mean, I don't know how to do that necessarily, but I think that it seems to me that would be super helpful.
Yeah, I would love to see more. I mean, we're working within the community colleges. I guess you consider that's the system. There's so many heroes in that space, and most of them are there changing it, working within, and I was there right with them. but a lot of times they're still captured in this old model. And so I really, if we can convert those folks to have more options, they seem to be powerful. And especially if they're younger folks who are taking over, they can be open to these options. Then maybe the system can actually, and the resources that the system has, they can project some of these models so that everyone has that option, right? It's a big conversation, but I think it's critical. How do you get everyone to have access to this type of model? And I think they can do it, and it's it's a complicated complicated discussion, and so yeah.
Remember that story where I don't remember the details, but you found it a long time ago. There was a parents, I think in New York City, who homeschooled their kid, and then a couple other families brought their kids to them, and they homeschooled their kids. And then when their kids came of age, they kept doing it for the kids in the local area.
That was in
Yeah.
local prisons. The
Yeah.
Shabazz family. They
Yeah.
were they were family. I think. Oh man, what's the town? I want to say Virginia or something.
Oh, was it Virginia? I thought it was New York. Okay.
No, it's like Virginia, and they lived in the housing in
Projects.
they call it public housing, and so they started homeschooling their kid, and then their kid was like building robots in the middle of the public housing, and then everyone's like, "What are you doing with your kid?" And then, can you take my kid and then do work with my kid? And they end up creating a center for this type. This is
But was it out of their apartment, or did they find another space for it, or what was it?
I think they worked out of their apartment and in some public spaces, but I think they eventually found a space to kind of work out of.
Okay.
This was No More Prisons by Upski, a graffiti writer.
Right.
Cool. This is an older book, but
Interesting book. Do you see any more questions?
Yeah, but there's it's so slow here. I don't know what's happening.
Yeah, there's a bit of a delay with the questions.
Okay, so let's see. Blah, blah, blah. Can you talk a little bit more about staying motivated with your kids, even if this is from La Rosa. Can you talk a little bit more about staying motivated with your kids, even if there might be a lack of support from your current social group? Can you talk a little bit more about staying motivated with your kids, even if there might be a lack of support from your current social group?
I think I understand what she's saying there. So you're staying motivated by working if nobody else in your community, your social community, is doing what you're doing. Is that what you mean?
That's a good point.
Yeah. That's why we're creating this hub, to create a community for people who are doing this. So even if your friends are not doing it or your social group is not doing it, you can find a community who is doing it, and get inspiration, motivation, support, answers to questions, best practices, tried and true resources, all that stuff. Yeah, I mean, you don't have to join our hub. I mean, you can find people, online from Facebook. There's Facebook groups, and there's blogs. There are tons of homeschool and unschool moms have blogs where they talk about, things that get you inspired and motivated, and they talk about their trials and successes. And so, yeah, there's plenty of stuff out there. If you just have to start looking, just start Googling it, you'll find it.
Patrick Havels, I hope I'm saying that right. He will ask, we have a lot of great ideas. Who's your leadership team to make sure all voices are heard and included? Thanks for talking about equity. I think this is very important. Good question. I think that's what the idea is to get champions in the community to lead that. So,
Yes.
if there's someone who wants to support that. So I'll just give you some background. What I do in the community college is a lot around adult ed, but we work with high school students as well, do enrollment, which I'm really into. But we worked on a program called Carpinteria Fina, which is like a fine woodworking initially for Spanish speakers. So we were targeting folks who were, in the labor market, who were not getting paid right and didn't have opportunities for further education. And so, this was a program that led to so much other work. But a lot of folks were undocumented, for example, but they're part of our community and need opportunities too, right? So it's like So we had to do a lot of stuff. I don't even know if I should be talking about this on live, but like, we had to make things happen and make that right. But what ended up happening somewhere, one student eventually, the program changed to a different name and started including anyone, not just Spanish speakers, but one of the students became the teacher. Another student started taking all these different classes from started woodworking, but then got into welding and machining and then electrical, and is now going for it, or at the time, he's going for his electrical license. Another student who I remember always practicing his English and talking to folks started taking classes, like English classes and literature classes. And so it was like a world opened up. My point is, in that work that my family has been active, and again, we're from North New Jersey, whatever. It's what I've seen is there's heroes in the community, and we're looking for those heroes to champion this. And hopefully, we're part of that voice, but it takes a whole village. So how do we have to kind of invent those spaces, get into those spaces, have those conversations, address those things. The leadership didn't come from in that space of within the system. The leadership didn't come necessarily from the top, because there was amazing presidents and chancellors who also led too. So I'm not disqualifying that, but a lot of the good work came from faculty, or even adjunct faculty or a staff person who really saw a vision and championed something. And so I look that's my experience. Leadership comes from those folks, and listening, and trying to be open, and trying to address the problem as best as possible. And so there's in our, of course, the homeschool community is full of folks who have who champion this stuff, and they have amazing ideas. I promise you'll find people with a lot of answers. There's a lot of, within the homeschool community, there's a lot of culturally relevant curriculum or material that you can do. That's one of the benefits of it. Like, you can really teach the history that you want to teach, and what voice you want to, there's so much going on there. You can completely find that.
And it's top priority for us to make sure that all those resources are in the hub.
So I'm getting the questions here now. So there's some there's even some in YouTube. So I'm going to write a letter to StreamYard, which is the program I use. They need to fix this right away. I can't be missing our community's questions, right? Are you looking for volunteers for the community? Irina says, I don't see it here, but I see them in YouTube.
Oh, okay. Volunteers. I mean, join the community, and we are all going to be building it together, basically. If nobody joins, it's just going to be Roy and I, staring at an empty website. We need everyone to join, and we have a sliding scale, and nobody will be turned away for lack of funds. So reach out to us if you need help. And we really want to create this big community where everybody has a voice, and everybody is adding their stories and their experiences, and inspiring each other, and adding resources, that they've used and loved. And, just the more people that join and add all that input and come join the Zooms and discussions, the better, the more robust the community will be.
Yeah, we want to use the resources to create a sustainable model where we can invest in things that we think will work. One of the things, and this is my private world, but like in my business, one of my visions is to have a philanthropic arm, because I worked in the nonprofit sector, and I know, money really dictates a lot of things. So like, I'm a big makerspace person, so I would love to seed more makerspaces. I try making them my own and trying to get grants or trying to work with leadership. But I think if you come with the dollars, you can make it happen faster. So my advocacy and my work around this stuff has changed a lot into the social enterprise, about revolutionary entrepreneurship, like stuff like that. And so I really we want to be able to cultivate and resource and fund things that we think are important, and with community input. So that's kind of the strategy here, bringing people on who can share and all that stuff. And so Yeah, I'm getting the comments in now. It's so interesting. All right, we're at 1:30. You think we should let people go? This one, this one.
I forgot to say an important thing about the hub. We also have a space for co-learning and co-creation. So families that are members who want to create classes together in partnership with each other, or just offer classes that they're having. There's a special space for that, like separate from online learning or vendors and stuff like that, and independent educators. So it's a space to create together stuff that's specific for what our kids are interested in and what they want. So that's like a big part of it too. So in terms of the volunteering, yeah, I mean, if you want to offer things, book clubs or, online sewing or, math groups or math clubs, like that kind of stuff, we can create that within the site. The platform is really, really set up well to do that.
Yeah. Again, this is a great opportunity, and there's so much more we can share, details. But this is a great opportunity to kind of rethink your ideas of education and how you want to implement that for either your kids or your community. If you don't have kids and you're on here, if you're an educator on here, like how you can participate in making taking this opportunity and making education an amazing experience. I'll just get a little bit into it, but I don't really like the competitiveness of it. Like you get the A's and the A's, people get A's win the world type of thing. I think it's more finding your passion and your interest and finding a space for yourself in the world. I think it has economic sense. It's humanizing education, and so there's a lot of work that still needs to be done, mainly in shifting the paradigm and how we think about education. And I think parents are the front line of this, and educators and everyone else. But parents can really empowering parents can really have an impact on that, and so that's what we're about, and we're trying to organize around that. And this stuff has been happening before we got here. So and again, we don't have all the answers, but
together we can be really impactful and powerful as a community if we all come together and share our experiences, our perspectives, our resources. Yep.
Edward says,
"You're both heroes too. I love how passionate you are in general, and most especially around your children's education and future." Thanks, Edward.
That was awesome.
Thank you guys again. Thanks everybody for coming out and being part of this. This is everything because of you guys, and we're really excited to build this thing together.
Does that mean we're done?
I think we should wrap up, but we'll have more lives. This isn't the only live, so people who missed this one or who want to come back and ask their own questions, next time, or maybe we'll cover some other topics next time. So yeah, we should definitely do another one.
Okay. Sweet.
Thanks everyone. Have a great rest of your evening.
Bye.
Bye.